Hello and welcome to a new project. This time it won't be a dramatic project, but something different. Namely this one, the iconic image of The Simpsons on the couch. I chose this motif because I've been experimenting a lot with colored veneer lately, and this image fits in perfectly. But before we get to the colored veneer, let's start with the background. With a project like this, it generally makes sense to work from the back to the front. The background is made of birch veneer that is soaked in a vinegar iron stain. As the name suggests, the vinegar iron stain is made simply from steel wool soaked in vinegar in a jar. When I immerse the birch veneer in the stain for several days, it turns grey. It's important to soak the veneer long enough for it to be completely saturated with the color. Here you can see the veneer after staining. To better highlight the difference, I'm also showing untreated birch veneer here. The grey tone works perfectly as a simple background for the picture. Now first to the couch. The couch is made from 80 more veneer. To create the desired comic look, I bordered the cut edges with black tulip veneer. I did something similar with my rose project a few years ago. In cutting out, I pay particular attention to the grain of the veneer, in order to select suitable areas. I use the printed image as a template for cutting out. To surround the part with black veneer, I first cut a narrow strip. I make sure to cut exactly along the grain to prevent the strip from breaking. To outline tight curves that will appear later in the project, I proceed as follows. I bend the strip repeatedly with tweezers to make it more flexible and easier to place around the curves. I then apply a thin coat of wood glue to the cut edge and glue the narrow strip to it. You need a lot of patience and endurance for this, as it is a very tricky task. The edging with the black veneer is probably the most difficult part of the whole project. For the rest of the couch, I follow the same steps. I cut out a new piece, attach it to the couch, outline it with black veneer, and repeat the process until the couch is finished. Here's the finished couch. I'm leaving the middle section as it is for now, as the Simpsons will be sitting here, and this area will be cut out later. Next, we attach the couch to the background. To do this, we align the couch accordingly and fix it in place with masking tape. Then we carve the outline of the couch into the background. The outline is then cut out completely and the couch is glued to the background. It is particularly important to work very precisely here, as mistakes are difficult to correct. The couch is now finished. Let's move on to the main part, The Simpsons. To achieve the vibrant colors for The Simpsons, I experimented a lot with different types of wood and stains. In the end, birch veneer gave me the best results. Here you can see the different results. I soaked the veneer in colored wood stain for several days, so that it became fully dyed, not just on the surface. This is crucial because the entire piece needs to be sanded later. Let's start with Bart's head. Once again, I use the template to etch all the facial features into the veneer. This way, I transfer the template onto the veneer. However, I don't cut out the head completely yet, so that the veneer retains its stability, making it easier to work with. We begin with the eyes. First, we cut the eyes out of the veneer. Next, we outline the cutout holes with black veneer, just as we did earlier with the couch. For the actual eyes, which are made from maple veneer, I don't use the template, but instead the veneer with the cutout holes. I precisely trace the contours of the eyes and then cut them out completely. This ensures the eyes will fit perfectly into the cutouts later. For the pupil, I use a punching tool. First I punch a hole into the eyes, which I then fill with a punch-out circle of black veneer. To ensure that the black veneer doesn't crack during the punching process, I coated both sides with wood glue beforehand. I then repeat this process for the other eye. Next we focus on the contours of the ear. For this I cut a small notch into the veneer. Which I then fill with a narrow strip of black veneer. It is especially helpful here that the head hasn't been fully cut out yet, as the ear could otherwise break off easily. After completing all the contours of the head, I cut it out completely and finished by outlining it with black veneer. Here's the finished head. Now we move on to the t-shirt and the arms. I made the arms slightly larger, as part of it will later be covered by Maggie. This area will be trimmed precisely when I place all the pieces into the background. As with the head, I first etch all the contours using the template. Then I cut out the pieces and outlining them with black veneer. For the rest I follow the same process. I transfer the contours using the template, cut out the pieces, outline them with black veneer and adjust them precisely. Here's the finished part. Now we need to place him on the couch. To do this, I'm using the template again to position him precisely. Next, I carefully carve the outline into the background. I try to be as precise as possible. I also have to be careful not to accidentally cut away the black outline when marking the veneer. Then I cut out the outline completely. Now that we cut out the outline, we just need to place Bart in it and secure him with masking tape. Here you can see the finished Bart. Now we just need to repeat this process for the rest of the family. The approach is the same as with Bart. We create each family member and fit them into the background. That's why the next progress, like here with Maggie, is shown through photos. Here you can see the finished Maggie. Now we place her next to Bart. Now let's start with the cat. The cat is made from limber veneer, which I also soaked in the vinegar stain to achieve the dark color. Here you can see the finished cat. Now that the cat is in place, let's move on to Lisa. Beside her necklace, the popcorn was the most time-consuming part, because it is very detailed, especially since each piece had to be outlined with black veneer. Now that Lisa is finished, we will continue with Marge. Don't worry about the hands. They look odd now, but they will later be covered by the dog and Homer. Marge's green dress is not made from birch veneer like the other colored veneers, but from Manicre veneer. With this veneer I was able to achieve a more natural green compared to birch. Moving on to the dog. Don't be surprised, the dog looks a bit weird. It's just because most of him will be covered by Homer later. Now let's move on to the last family member, Homer. Don't worry about his hair, I will add that later when he's placed in the background. I also divided Homer into several pieces to better position him behind the couch armrest. And with that, we are done. At this point, I just want to say, if you like what I'm doing, feel free to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. That would really help me out. Now we just have the final steps left, this time in fast forward, since the video is already quite long. First, I apply veneer tape to the front. Then I remove the masking tape from the back. Next, I glue the piece onto a base plate and veneer the back with birch veneer at the same time. Then I remove the veneer tape from the front. Here you can see the piece after pressing. Next, I trim the piece to its exact size and veneer the outer edges. The final steps are sanding and applying clear coat. Here you can see the piece after applying 2 layers of clear coat. And with that, the project is completed. I really enjoy bringing The Simpsons to life in wood, but I have to say it was quite a challenge. Especially outlining all the pieces with black veneer took an incredible amount of time and patience. Every little detail had to be cut and adjusted precisely so that everything fits together perfectly in the end. Despite the effort, I think it was totally worth it. The colors pop beautifully, and the fully dyed veneers give the whole piece a clean and high quality look. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to leave a comment. And if you want to see more projects like this, support me with a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.